Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel today. I'm going over some old news, so come along with me. You remember the story of Humpty Dumpty? He had a great fall. Well, I'm working on two projects with it, printing it out first on some watercolor paper. But for this particular project, I'm going to be using Tim Holtz tissue wrap. And I'm going to use this watercolor paper as a carrier because obviously the paper is too thin to put through the printer by itself. So I'm going to secure it down with some really good tacky washi tape. And I'm just going along the edges. I'm making sure that I'm wrapping the washi tape around the edges of the page. That way when it goes through my printer, it has less of a chance of getting hung up. You just want to experiment with your printer to see how it works. So I'm going along the sides and the bottom. The right side that I'm working on, that's the part that will be fed into the printer. I just removed that edge, and I'm just going to continue wrapping the washi tape around, but I'm only going up halfway on this page. There it is, it's printed, and as you can see, it's a nice muted, almost vintage coloring to it. When you are printing on the tissue wrap paper, you're going to lose the vibrancy of the colors that you normally would have on white plain paper, but this is the effect that I'm looking for. You want to keep in mind, because it is a little transparent, that any background that you may put this on top of is going to show through somewhat. So you may want to choose a lighter background, or it just depends on your project, a lighter or a darker, but just be aware that you can see what's underneath. So your printer ink, and this is an inkjet printer, is reactive with water, somewhat like a dye. So I'm going to be taking advantage of that in certain places. I'm also going to be putting down some distress ink to color some areas and have it stand out just a little bit more to define the whole shape of Mr. Humpty here. Here's some Inktense pencils that I'm also going to use to help me bring forth the shape of his head, maybe some more cracks and the shadowing and so on. The great thing about the Inktense pencils is that when you add water to them, you can blend them out somewhat, and when it's completely dry, they're permanent. You could put more water down, but it's not going to move that color at all. And as you'll see, this is just plain water that I'm reactivating the printer ink with. Such a cool effect. I really like that. You don't have to do much. And now I'm just going to go in and shadow some of the areas and, just kind of work on this piece a bit. But let's talk about copyright issues. I think it's fine to print out. This is a picture that I took, actually a camera shot from the TV in order to print this out. And I think it's fine to use images like that in your art journal, in your card making, as long as you are not accepting money. So don't sell it unless you have permission to sell someone else's image. So this is going in my art journal book, so it doesn't really matter. I don't have to worry about copyright issues. But keep that in mind if that's what you're going to be doing in your artwork. And still just going around and just defining these different areas. And notice I'm dabbing off color. I'm putting water on and then dabbing it off because I want to keep the same level of intensity, I guess, in the color. I just want it all kind of muted. It is an old paper. It is old news, so I just really needed to kind of look that way. And if you're thinking of doing this and putting this through your printer, this is an inkjet printer that I use. You may have different results if you're using a laserjet printer. Keep in mind the laserjet printer uses heat. Could melt this tissue paper. I don't know, but artists beware. Now here I am using a Prisma pencil and just bringing forth some of those bandages that need to be brightened up a little bit in some of the staples so that you can see that. I mean, he's wounded. Look at him. I love doing this process because you, as the artist, you can kind of control what you want to bring forth. I define that contraption around his head a little bit more with a permanent marker. You can maybe take away color or add it. It's just the possibilities are really endless. I specifically have printed this picture on this paper with the text going in a different direction just for some added contrast. So I've decided to use a blank page because I wanted that image to show up really good. I'm going to be spreading some gel medium on the back. That's going to act as my glue, and I'm just spreading it with an old plastic membership card of some kind. You can use a credit card or just a piece of cardboard, something stiff just to help spread that out, or a palette knife. I wanted a really thin layer, and I'm going to work from the center here and work out towards the edges, smoothing it out along the way, along the way, making sure that I don't have any crinkles or bubbles in it. And as I'm smoothing the top, I did make sure that that image on top was completely dry. I didn't want to run the risk of smearing any of that ink as I rub my hand across it. I went ahead and printed some titles and some quotes on some more tissue paper, and I'm just again adding it to my page. I want this to look like I've taken out old newspaper clippings of this horrible, horrible event that happened so long ago. And if you notice, a lot of the fairy tales and the lullabies are all pretty tragic. What's that about? Goodness. Now I just want to clean up the edges, cut off this excess that's hanging over. Go ahead and clean up this edge here. And now, because that image has a distressed look, I want the entire page to have more of a distressed look, again, because it is old news. They're old newspapers. So I'm putting a little bit of broken china, distressed ink around, and some, I think that is gathered twigs. And I'm just adding some water, blending it out and dabbing it off, just, again, to keep the consistency of the color throughout the whole page. Now I see there's some areas just to brighten up again, and if you layer these colors down with the Prisma pencils, you can really get some nice vibrant colors. So that's why I'm going back over it just one more time, not too bright. I'm using a permanent marker a line marker for the arm there. Then I thought he needs a black eye. I mean, this was a great fall. So yeah, he needed to have a black eye. You know, you as the artist, you get to decide how you really want to do this image. You know, I could have had less injuries or really banged him up there, but I think he needed a black eye for sure. And here I apologize for the shakiness because I'm actually holding the camera, but I decided that hard edge there needed some softening, so I was trying to show that, but not doing a great job of it, but you get what I'm saying. Now I'm taking some wax paper because some of the parts of the page are sticky from matte medium, so I'm just really rubbing it over those sticky spots, and that will get rid of your sticky pages, folks. So be sure to try that out. I was going to use some Distress Glaze, but decided just to keep going with this wax paper, and that just works fine. So no stickiness. So there you go, a little close-up look at that eye. Oh, poor baby. I feel so sorry for him. If you haven't seen this commercial, you got to check it out on YouTube. This is the TurboTax 2017. I'm not trying to do a plug for them or anything, but this is where I got the idea. I just thought it was so funny. Sorry for that camera angle. But yeah, check it out when you get the chance. Here we go with some photos. Look at that. You got to have a coffee stain, right, on some old newspaper. Well, listen, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your visit. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give me a thumbs up anyway. Until the next one, enjoy.